Welcome back for another video. Who are the best players to buy for Gameweek 13? There's lots of free hits active as well this week, so there's plenty of fun 1 week punts that we're going to look at as well. Arsenal are away to Chelsea, which of course reduces the appeal of Arsenal assets, hence the free hit consideration. Plus there's some really good fixtures that we're not that heavily invested in, like Brentford home to Burnley, Man City home to Leeds. And therefore this week, in terms of keepers, it is Donnarumma who's top of the table, 4.2 projected points home to Leeds. An immediate response needed after that loss to Newcastle. And despite that loss, where they conceded 2.2 XG to Newcastle, they're still the second best team in the league for expected goals conceded after 13 games played. 12.68 XGC, only Arsenal were ahead of them with a ridiculously low 6.21 XGC. Though naturally, if we're talking about 1 week punts and a free hit, then you might prefer to go for a Man City defender rather than a keeper, given the upside of O'Reilly as a 1 week punt. Kelleher is second on the table this week for that Burnley fixture, or joint second in fact. Kelleher and Martinez both on 4 points. Villa play home to Wolves, which is another standout fixture. Brentford have actually been 6th best for expected goals conceded. Their defence hasn't been bad, but just 2 clean sheets, 19 goals conceded. Villa have been 13th best, but twice as many clean sheets. So Donnarumma and Raya are actually joint top if you look at projected points for the next 5. Therefore, if you've got the City keeper and you're thinking about switching, then it's potentially a waste of a transfer. Maybe in Gameweek 16 it looks like worth doing when Arsenal have got Wolves home and we've got the 5 free transfers that week. The defenders table looks very interesting this week, which again does lend credit to the free hit in 13 and the appeal of using it this week. There's some players here that you might not want long term, but they look great in isolation for Gameweek 13. Namely, Brentford and Villa defenders here. It's Collins who's top of all defenders this week. He has got an eye for goal, and as we said, their defence hasn't been bad, unlucky to only have 2 clean sheets. Collins had 2 goals, 7 assists last season in fact as well. 9.5 defcons per 90 places him in the top 10 defenders in the league. Vandenberg, a bit cheaper and a little bit behind as well. He's averaging 9 defcons per 90. I mean, you're unlikely to get defcons from Cash, but he's got even more of an eye for goal. He scored twice this season. 12 shots taken is 3rd highest among defenders. The only reason that O'Reilly doesn't appear on the table this week is basically expected minutes. His default predicted minutes are on 59, which basically is to account for possible benchings in the future. You know, if you play 90, 90 and then 5, then that brings the average down heavily. He's played 773 minutes this season, so divide that by 12 is 64 minutes per game on average. If you do make that correct call on him starting against Leeds, then he's absolute gold. 90 minutes would put him on 5.4 points, which is top of all defenders. We may or may not get some clues from the midweek footy. Just to remind you, there's a load of European games before Gameweek 13, so the general advice is to have a think about what you want to do, but make your moves later in the week. That's the sensible play anyway. The following teams are all going to play before the next game week: Chelsea, Man City, Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace, so 9 teams. Vardy's the potentially safer alternative to O'Reilly, but a lower ceiling from that probable left centre-back role. Man City do have the early kickoff, so maybe there's a chance of some early team news before the next deadline as well. A goal and a clean sheet has now seen Munoz rise to 5.9 million. So is it too late? Is he too expensive? No, I wouldn't say he is. We talked about him in the transfer plans video, and ultimately, he's got the same goal involvements as Rodgers, Gakpo and Doku. More goal involvements than Sarr and even Bowen now. Basically, he's like a midfielder for 5.9 million that gets you 4 points for any clean sheet. The Palace defence is obviously very heavily owned, and obviously many of you have already got Richards, Lacroix, Guehi. It's maybe a little bit overinvested, but it's not bad to double up, and it has worked in fairness. Or you could swap one of them to Munoz if you've got that luxury. The earlier table showed that Palace have been the 5th best team for expected goals conceded. But yeah, as I say, double defence, potentially a little bit overinvested. Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City are all ahead of them defensively, and you wouldn't want to double up with their assets, would you? The other great thing about him is, despite how attacking he is, he's also completely nailed. I mean, last season, who remembers when Palace had double Gameweek 32 and then double Gameweek 33 back to back? It was an absurd schedule. It was, you know, the weekend and then the midweek game, and then the weekend and then midweek game. And the likes of Eze, Mateta, Sarr all got terrible minutes over those games, but Munoz played 90 every game. One thing to point out as well on the free here is that although we've got no Arsenal defenders on the table, you could still hedge with Timber just in case they manage to shut Chelsea out. Arsenal defence was around 100% effective ownership last game week, so there is a big rank threat there if you don't own any of them on the free hit. If you're free hitting, what's your defence looking like? Let us know below. Midfielders next, and again, I certainly wouldn't be rushing to buy Salah, but he does top the table and you can make a case for him on a free hit. West Ham just conceded over 4 expected goals to Bournemouth on the weekend after all. Liverpool do look in disarray, so he's by no means a staple pick, even on a free hit. Sharda, on the other hand, looks perfect as a one-week pick. He is on 4 yellow cards, so he'd be a risky purchase outside of that. Maybe if you're lucky and you buy him, he gets a booking this week and scores, and then he misses Gameweek 13, which is against Arsenal, where you wouldn't want to play him anyway. Sharda is joint second with Foden this game week, so maybe a free hit midfield of Foden, Sharda, Bruno, Saka and Mbeumo looks really fun. I'd be lined up with something like that if I had the chip active myself. Now obviously Foden has been a disappointing pick. He started 9 games in a row now and he's only got 1 goal, 1 assist to his name all season. But despite that, doesn't Man City home to Leeds have that kind of feeling like could be a goal fest? Wouldn't be surprised if it ended 3-0, 4-0. Let's be honest, everyone's got Haaland basically, and basically everyone's going to captain him, so Foden could be a way to actually get something rank-wise out of any goals in that fixture. And of course the other way to get something out of that fixture is to back the clean sheet with Donnarumma or a defender. Anyway, we won't dwell on the free hit too much because I expect probably more of you aren't using it than are. Semenyo did miss the last match of illness, but not injury. If that's true, then that would suggest he's going to be fine for Gameweek 13 and therefore a hold, and he is on the table this week. And of course Enzo finally delivered on the promise with that 11 pointer on the weekend. Though Chelsea, of course, do face Arsenal, so Enzo's way off the table with 3.8 points and potentially looks sellable. Looking at the mids a bit cheaper than that, so for 6.5 mil and under, Minte's name has popped up a few times in recent weeks on these. An 11 pointer on the weekend after 2 assists and 3 bonus. No mid for 6.5 mil and under has got more projected points than him over the next 5, and he's 6.1 million. He's on 20.7 points. But honourable mention to Anderson on 19.1 for the next 5, so he's not significantly behind, but he is significantly cheaper for 0.8 million cheaper. Obviously not as exciting, but he is the best in the league for DEFCONs, and he's got corners and the odd free kick in him. 36 corners he's taken this season, Anderson, which is actually 4th most in the league. If you're scraping the barrel, then Potts for 4.4 million has started 3 in a row for West Ham, and he looks solid just to sit 2nd or 3rd on your bench. And of course King still fits the bill as well for 4.5 mil as a 5th mid to be benching. The last player actually I forgot to touch on is Morgan Rogers. He's on 4.6 points, so he just misses out on making the table this week. And of course he's a valid pick on a free hit as well. Off the back of that brace, scored a great free kick and he faces Wolves home. Okay, so let's have a look at the forwards then. Haaland, of course, absolutely miles ahead of anyone else this week. 7.2 points for that Leeds home game. You can make a very good case for triple captaincy this week. Assuming there's no issues between now and Gameweek 17, on paper this week is the 2nd best opportunity that we're going to get. Now the caveat is that there is Champions League this week where he's probably going to start against Leverkusen. Before Gameweek 17, midweek it's the League Cup instead, where Haaland's likely to get a rest and maybe someone like Marmoush starts up top. So there is that possible rest, plus there's the fact that West Ham's defence is worse than Leeds. And West Ham will have let Juve and Wan-Bissaka leave for AFCON just before that match. So all things considered, this is a fantastic triple captain week, make no mistake. Probably the 2nd best opportunity remaining. Thiago is 2nd on the table with 5.5 points, a 4-pointer last match after scoring and then having a penalty saved. Quite a brutal swing, that one. He's had 5 penalties in the league this season, which is more than any player. 4 scored, 1 saved. So basically 9 goals in total, 5 of those non-penalty goals. He's cheap and cheerful though for 6.5 mil. It looks great value. Brentford's main man up top. There is a complete lack of competition as well, which is the other thing that makes him really appealing. So he's probably going to just keep playing every single game and get 90 minutes basically every game through the busy winter period. Obviously Welbeck's enjoying a great season as well, 7 goals for him. About the same price. Given a choice between the two, Låbakk versus Thiago, my preference is still the same as it was last month when we were comparing them. I think Thiago just edges it. Let us know below where you're at with your transfer plans for Gameweek 13. I read every comment, and hit subscribe if this was a helpful video. There's more content coming to help you out before the deadline. See you soon for the next one.